Yo, Terence Bud Crawford uses his social media as Twitter, and he rants on all the feedback and detractors and what people are saying. We're going to talk about it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Before I get started, UFC Francis Ngannou, Stipe Miocic, UFC 260 was a success. Shout out to everybody who clicked that link and ordered the ESPN Plus pay-per-view. I really appreciate it. You can still get ESPN Plus for your content and viewing pleasure, and you can get ESPN Plus bundle that includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus, all three apps for one low price. And I hear they're getting ready to raise the price, so you may want to get in before the price point goes up. Now, Terence Crawford, you'll see on the screen, he took to his social media and he had a bit of a rant. He tweets, he didn't beat nobody. He on the wrong side of the street. He not a real welterweight. Wait, tell him to get a belt first. Oh, wait, y'all gonna act like I wasn't calling out these guys when I was at 140. He also says, if anybody's been following my career and not listening to the nonsense that people say, then you'll know I tried to fight all the champions in my division years ago. What more do y'all want? So, my thoughts on this is Crawford, he seems like a very cool dude, very headstrong dude, and very stubborn guy as well. And he's now facing the wrath of the fans who want to see him fight the upper echelon, or what is perceived as the upper echelon, we'll say, of the welterweight division. Ego Stradamus predicted this years ago, that Crawford would run into it's uncanny. If you go watch the old videos, or if you've been a fan of mine and you've watched the channel for years, you would have heard this. Everything he's enduring right now, I predicted, because it was very apparent to me that he was going to expire all options and exhaust all options on his quote unquote side of the street. And then there would be this demand and this clamoring for more, where people wanted to see him tested. And you got to look at it. This is a competitive sport. It's a dangerous sport, the sport of boxing. And at the end of the day, when anybody is really good or great or potentially great in a sport, you're going to have fans that want to see you tested. Whether you fail, whether you come up short and lose or win, they want to see it. And that's the conundrum that Terence Crawford, I believe, is in. And he's now resorting to ranting on social media about what the naysayers and what people are saying. But what does that really accomplish? And I feel like Terence Crawford, he sounds like he beats to the sound of his own drum, which could be cool. But at times you have to listen to what others are saying. And especially, namely, when you're a celebrity boxer. I mean, he doesn't have to. I'm not saying you have to do. You don't have to, as a grown man, you don't have to do anything. But it would behoove you to do it at this point, because some of what's saying, we have to get to the point in 2021 where everything that is constructive or criticism is not being deemed as hate. There's a lot of people that want the best for Terence Crawford and want to see him continue to kick butt and take names and stuff like that, myself being one of them. But you have to admit, the way Crawford has gone about certain things, it's just not necessarily the best or the way that's going to get him to the promised land of what he said he wanted, right? Now he's going on and saying and telling the world that the Errol Spence Jr. fight is dead. Don't ask him about it. He don't care. It's over. He's previously said similar kind of comments where he says, I don't think the fight will ever happen. And now he just sounds a bit bitter or salty on social media, talking about what all the other people said. And he said he's been calling out guys from 140. Now, I can attest to he did call out Keith Thurman. I was at his fight. I covered his fight. It was in Nebraska. It wasn't in Omaha. They did part of the media day in Omaha, but the rest of it was in Lincoln. And that was for Julius Ndongo to become undisputed. I was there. I remember, and I have it on tape. I remember, because as a videographer, you remember what you shoot, because I lived it. And I remember he did call out Keith Thurman when he was at 140. He said, yeah, I want to fight Keith Thurman. They said he's the best or one of the best, or blah, blah, blah. But somehow in Terence Crawford, his mind, he's saying that he's called out all of the guys at 147 when he was at 140. So somebody, if you guys could, send me a link of outside of Keith Thurman, which I just vouched for because I was there, and I cover boxing every single day for several years. Tell me when this allegedly happened where Terence Crawford, send me the interview or the magazine spread or wherever this took place outside of Keith Thurman, which I'm acknowledging, where Terence Crawford was calling out Errol Spence and these other guys. Beyond that, the thing that doesn't make sense about that whole angle anyway is, how are you calling out people in a division higher than you if you're not even at that division? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so you're at 140 and you're calling out people that are in a division 7 pounds higher than you. I don't understand really what the logic is. That's like Andre Ward overly calling out guys at 175, calling out Adonis Stevenson or Sergey Kovalev. If you really want to fight those guys, then you got to move up, which he did do. But what's the basis of calling out somebody? What does that mean? Because you called them out and you're not in their division at the moment, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't understand. Crawford keeps mentioning this same talking point. I don't understand what does that mean though? Because you called him out at 140 and you weren't in the division, even if it is true. Because to me, I can only recall him massively calling out Keith Thurman. But again, if you guys have links to him calling out Errol Spence handedly and incessantly when he was at 140, so nothing after basically nothing Jeff Horn or after when he actually moved up. So send me that link. But beyond that, what does that mean? You weren't in the division, so you could call out anybody, but what does that mean if you're not even in their division at the point? Why would those guys, what was supposed to happen is what I'm so confused about this. What was supposed to happen if you hadn't made the plunge upward to the division? So what you're supposed to get credit and brownie points because you called out people and you hadn't yet came to their division? I don't understand where Crawford is even going with that. And he keeps bringing it up like, man, y'all know I've been calling him out since 140. Okay, even if that were true, again, what does it mean? You weren't in their division. So Errol Spence, what is he supposed to stop what he's doing? Is he supposed to go down to 140? Like, what is he supposed to do, even if that were true? And I honestly don't remember him calling out anyone outside of Keith Thurman. But beyond all of this, it's really neither here nor there that you called out people and the fights never materialized. And for whatever reason, this concept seems hard for Crawford to understand. It's not, anybody could call out whoever. I mean, Floyd Mayweather, he has an interview where he called out Shane Mosley, who he later fought, but he also called out Prince Nassim and Costa Tszyu. But for whatever reason, the politics, whatever, he didn't fight Costa Tszyu. He didn't fight Prince Nassim Hamed. You know what I mean? So calling out somebody is half the battle. You, your team, your promotion got to actually get the fights manifested. That's like me saying I want $1 million in my bank account, but I'm not actively working towards that, and I'm not taking any steps and diversifying and building up my portfolio and assets and saving and different things like that to actually make that a reality. So I'm not really understanding what Crawford's rant is here. Saying I called out people at 140. You were still handling business and trying to become undisputed at 140. So what could have happened if you had business to handle at 140, which you did? And you look at it, Crawford immediately after becoming undisputed, he cleared out the whole division, fought everyone he needed to fight. Everyone gave him props. I put him number one pound for pound at the time. And then he moved up directly after that. So I don't understand his whole angle about calling out people when he was at 140. I really don't get what was supposed to happen. again, was Errol Spence and Keith Thurman and Pacquiao, were they supposed to drop down because you were calling them out at 140? Or you become undisputed, you clean house at 140, and then you moved up. You moved up in division, and you still haven't gotten any of those fights. You know, from Mikey Garcia to Danny Garcia to Errol Spence to Keith Thurman to Sean Porter to Pacquiao. And I think you got Ugas, you haven't got any of these type of fights. So Crawford is ranting, and it looks like he's upset he feels he's not getting the recognition. But I don't think anyone's challenged the fact that he's a competitive monster, he's ambidextrous, he's a great fighter. It's the politics and the business that he's done for himself and the statements he's making that have people scratching their head and arching their eyebrow like, what? You know, saying you want to fight Errol Spence and Pacquiao. And like, here's the other thing I don't get with the whole Crawford situation. I could talk about this all day. Crawford said he wanted to fight Pacquiao and Errol Spence, right? But he seems to be more salty and bitter about the Errol Spence situation. He seems almost complacent or content, I think is a better word, that he's not getting the Pacquiao fight. Your name has been linked to many Pacquiao. I want to up to my promoter. Your name has been linked to Manny Pacquiao for longer than it's been linked to Errol Spence. Errol Spence, you know, he's such a monster at 147. People weren't looking down. You know, Mikey Garcia, he just kept picking that and barking up that tree, and that's why he ended up moving up and getting the Errol Spence fight. But Errol Spence was beating the bundus and, you know, beating the ish out of them and knocking out dudes. So people weren't really looking down for competition. They were looking at what names could Errol Spence fight at welterweight. So I'm really curious why that Crawford seems to focus his energy only on what people are saying kind of with the Errol Spence, and he seems so over the Errol Spence fight, but you still haven't got the Pacquiao fight either, and that's been lingering and going on much longer than the whole Errol Spence situation. So it's weird. It's almost like he is content, or he knows he's not going to get a Pacquiao fight, so he just like focuses his energy. Like why are you saying the Errol Spence fight will never happen, is dead, but you're still open-minded towards Pacquiao, and you've been strung along longer than the whole Errol Spence situation has been going on with Pacquiao. You guys were both with HBO, you were both with ESPN, and you were both with Top Rank at a point in time, and yet and still you don't see this harshness from Terence Crawford regarding Pacquiao. He doesn't say like, oh, I'll never fight Pacquiao, that chapter is closed, but he does keep saying it with Errol Spence. So it makes me wonder what the motive is or whatever behind that. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Terence Crawford, I mean, he's ranting online, but what does that accomplish? Like, you're saying, oh, people said this and said this. People said that to Errol Spence too. It sounds like Crawford is upset because he's not getting the recognition, or he feels bitter or salty because he was the man at 140 and he hasn't been able to produce that based on the fights he hasn't been able to secure in the new division. And I feel he's such a competitor, and he's not listening to what people are saying about the business and how you handle your business and, you know, signing extensions. So it's like misdirected, misguided anger, you know what I'm saying? And the anger is being displaced to Errol Spence. The bottom line is the consumers telling you what they want. You and your team have not delivered the type of fights and the names of the fighters at 147 to mirror or duplicate what you did at 140. People notice nobody was ragging on Terence Crawford at 140. He fought everybody necessary to his legacy, you know, Victor Postals, and he fought the guys like that. But at 47, new division, new clean slate, you haven't had those names. You fought guys like Benavidez, who had long layoffs and really 2 tune-ups with unknown guys, got shot in the leg, so he seemed like immobile in the second half of the fight. Jeff Horn, who a lot of people, including myself, thought lost to Pacquiao. Mean Machine coming off a bad performance with Ray Robinson where he really lost. Amir Khan, who was 2 fights removed, really 1 fight because the Phil LaGreco fight lasted 38 seconds. You know, removed from the Canelo brutal knockout. And Crawford, for some reason, doesn't see any of these things, and he thinks people are just hating on him and is just Crawford versus the world, but I don't see it like that. I think there's a lot of people that are turned off by this behavior that really root for Crawford and have been wanting to see him shine, but with his antics and what he's saying and how he's going about it, it's just rubbing people the wrong way and they're kind of off the situation. But I don't feel it's what Crawford is making it, like Crawford versus the world, and people refuse to give him credit. It's you're great, and the other guys that people want to see you fight, you haven't secured those fights at 47, period. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We work.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.